In a team meeting last week, a colleague said, I'm in more conversations that are pushing the thought that PR, thought leadership, paid editorial, etc., need to be more action-oriented versus awareness and perception building, specifically because they need KPIs that tie to business, not just brand. This feels like the downside of collapsing the funnel. Yes. And reputation and recognition are becoming more measurable, also known as action-oriented today, because without them, you don't have a brand. You don't have thought leadership. You don't have any visibility. You don't show up in Google searches. You don't show up in AI answers. Your sales team has a harder time with prospecting. And your CEO's mom has nothing to tell her friends at Bridge Club. Do they still play bridge? Maybe it's something else now. That's because in an AI-shaped market, reputation is a ranking signal. And my colleague is right. It is the downside of collapsing the funnel because we forget that the brilliantly action-oriented plays will never see the light of day if buyers and the machines don't already recognize you and trust you. Reputation is not fluffy anymore. It's actually never been fluffy, but we can actually demonstrate its real value now. Machines read signals humans have always cared about: consistency, credibility, corroboration, and convert them into rank. Brand search volume becomes a proxy for recognition. Third-party citations and expert quotes become the proof. High-quality coverage and content that others reference becomes authority. When those signals are thin, your most action-oriented call to action doesn't work. The job isn't to choose between reputation and response. It's to engineer response from reputation. On this week's SpinSucks podcast episode, we'll discuss how to make your reputation quantifiable so you can get to action-oriented and make all of those numbers people happy.
If you're a communications pro who works hard, doesn't compromise quality, and gets the job done, welcome home. We'll share our tips, tricks, and stories, and together we will change the face of PR. Spin sucks, but we don't. With the Spin Sucks podcast, here's Gini Dietrich.
Welcome back to the SpinSucks podcast. I'm Gini Dietrich. Before we get started, I have a little tidbit for you. Did you know that if you can't finish watching right now, you can subscribe to the audio version of this show? Take me in your ears, on your drive, on your walk. We're on all the platforms where you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple, or you can subscribe to our newsletter at spinsucks.com and get it in your inbox every Tuesday. In 2025, the internet does not get to know you over coffee or ask to pick your brain. It's far too productive for that. Instead, it quickly scans to see if you know what the heck you're talking about. Every tool, Google, Perplexity, LinkedIn, TikTok, OpenAI, they all ask 3 questions. Number 1, do I recognize you? Number 2, can I believe you? Number 3, who else says you're legit? When those answers are obvious to the robots, your content travels further with less spend. When they're fuzzy, though, even the smartest action-oriented metric can feel like pushing a boulder uphill. Recognition is, of course, the dull housekeeping part that most teams skip until it bites them in the butt. It's the consistent brand and the author information. It's the about page that actually says something. It's product names that match everywhere across the web. And it's bios that aren't 3 different versions of the same person. It's also whether people search for your company by name. No one really wants to invest in it, in this brand reputation, right? Because it's hard to measure and it's not quote unquote action oriented. But while it may be boring, it is essential. Machines love consistency, and so do humans who are deciding whether to click and buy. Here's how it plays out in the real world. So let's say that 2 teams launch the same webinar with the same budget. Team A has a proof-packed pillar page that the webinar ties back to. It has a couple of strong earned media placements quoting their point of view, and employees are repeating the same language on social. Branded search then begins to tick up. Team B, on the other hand, has a well-designed landing page with lots of pretty pictures and a handful of influencers sharing the information on social media. Team A's clicks are cheaper and their form completions are higher, not because their button is greener, but because the web, the internet can already vouch for them. Team B has a better designed page, but they're paying the trust tax because they don't have all those other things. They don't have the pillar content, the frequently asked questions, the experts who are endorsing them, the earned media. So to make this make sense to the money people, you want to look at data from a few things. You want to look at growth in branded search. So when you go into search.google.com, are you seeing a trend of your brand specifically going up? You want to look at the percentage of new pages that have external citations and subject matter expert quotes. You want to look at whether your key messages show up in coverage, and if so, how many do. You want to look at the quality of the outlets that are linking to you. So linking to your website or to your pillar page or your cornerstone content from their media site. What are the qualified sessions? What's that number? How many forms are being completed? If you're a B2B organization, how many people are setting up demos and actually showing up for them? What kind of pipeline revenue number are you influencing? When growth in branded search increases, for instance, the pipeline influence becomes easier and cheaper a few weeks later. So if you see a growth in branded search, you're probably going to be able to predict that that pipeline is going to increase, I'd say 8 weeks later, depending on what you do. Maybe it's 2 weeks. I'd say 2 to 8 weeks. When your key messages fall flat and don't show up in coverage, you end up spending money to boost your webinar, and then you wonder why no one is registering. Trust is a set of readable signals. Make them obvious, and everything action-oriented gets easier. Clicks, forms, demos, and revenue. If trust is what carries your call to action, no surprise, the PESO model is how you build the engine. Most teams try to do everything everywhere all at once. Please do not do that. You do not need to do that. Please do not do that. Run it as a sequence. Recognize, believe, act. You're teaching both people and machines who you are, recognize, why you're credible, believe, and where to click next, act. Who you are, recognize, why you're credible, believe, and where to click next, act. Owned is your foundation. It's your home base. It's where your entity lives and your facts and figures are organized. Create or tighten an authority hub for your key topic. Give it a real author with a real bio, link to their LinkedIn profile page, and include quotes from internal subject matter experts. Add external citations and first-party data where you have it available. That might be a quote from your media coverage. It might be a quote from an external expert. Tie every action asset, so your webinar, your guide, your ebook, your demo, to this hub, this authority hub for your key topics. So authority consolidates instead of scattering across microsites. If someone lands on this page, your anchor hub cold, would a human and a large language model know who you are, what you stand for, and where your proof lives? If not, you're not ready for amplification. So get that all ready before you start to amplify. Once your foundation is credible, you can go get other people to say it, okay? So now you started to do the earned media. Pitch one sharp point of view, not 6 talking points. Offer a subject matter expert who's available on short notice. Hand reporters a concise proof pack that might be 3 statistics, 2 visuals, and 1 quotable line. All of those things should align with your owned hub, your anchor hub. Your goal is not to get coverage everywhere. It's an anchor placement that others will cite. They'll link to, they'll have the information, and they'll help spread that consistent message across the web. Once published, you'll review it to ensure the piece does not use your language or data verbatim and link back to your hub. If yes, if you do, you have added wattage to the system. If not, you want to refine the point of view or the proof and pitch another story to a different digital publisher. Then you want to use shared. So this is to make the message travel. So repetition builds recognition. I often feel like I'm always repeating myself and I get so bored with myself. And then I remember I'm not the audience. Repetition builds recognition. And consistency builds the entity graph. So you want to create short posts for employees, leaders, creators, and community. You'll want to keep that phrasing close to the headlines that are used on your anchor page and in the earned media. Consistent, consistent, consistent. This will make it easier for the machines to connect the dots. Use a short video to restate the exact claim that's in print and link back to your anchor hub, to your pillar content, to your website, your webinar page, whatever it happens to be. And then you want to see, are people repeating your phrasing and tagging your subject matter expert? Are saves and shares outpacing likes? If the message isn't echoing, simplify the line and try again. And then finally, you can go to paid. So this is where you'll amplify the winners, not the wishes. Paid should pour gas on what's already catching. It's not going to hide a weak flame. So promote only the top 10 to 20% of assets that are already earning clicks and time on page. Suppress the bottom half every week. Use creative that mirrors that exact language that worked in earned and shared. If you have a lower cost per acquisition and a higher form completion rate without new creative or spending more money, you'll know your trust layer is doing its job. We've talked about how to use PESO to build trust that will influence revenue. Now let's discuss how to make thought leadership, reputation, and brand awareness quantifiable so even the money people are singing your praises. If someone on your executive team or your client's executive team says, but how does brand move the business? This is where you smile, you pull up a simple scorecard, and you show them exactly how. One of my favorite things to do in a meeting like that is turn to the VP of sales or the chief revenue officer and say, so how much more challenging is your job if the prospect has never heard of you when you call? They always say it's significantly more challenging. Yeah, duh. Then I can explain that without brand, without reputation, without thought leadership, no one freaking knows who you are. Without those things, you don't show up in AI answers. And if no one who knows who you are and you don't show up in AI answers, they don't know who you are when you call, you effectively don't exist. They're not going to take your call. They're not going to click through. They're not going to buy. So brand, reputation, and thought leadership are extraordinarily important. Sure, the sales team can keep calling them, but they may never get through and they may end up being annoying. And if they do get through, the sales cycle is incredibly long. Which would you rather have? That conversation almost always gets them. Once you have them, then you can show them the proof of how it's working. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. The first thing you want to do is track the upper trust layer. We used to call this the top of the funnel, but since the funnel has collapsed, we're now calling it the upper trust layer. So you're building trust up here before people know who you are. These are not vanity metrics. They're the things that tell you if people and machines recognize you, believe you, and can corroborate you. To figure out if people recognize you, there are two things to track: branded search index and entity consistency. For branded search index, track monthly searches for your name. So company, products, services, executives, subject matter experts. You can use Google Search Console and Google Trends for this. You want to see a steady climb after big owned and earned media pushes. For entity consistency, you want to have 100% of your top website pages to have a clean author card, matching bios, and the website should have a real about page that is updated as necessary. So that's if people, to figure out if people can recognize you. Branded search index using Google Search Console and Google Trends. Now, to track whether your organization has credibility, you're going to watch for proof density and original data mentions. So for proof density, you'll track the percentage of new or updated pages with at least one external citation, so somebody else saying how great you are, and one subject matter expert, and that can be internal. You want those pages, that percentage of new and updated pages with at least one external citation and one SME quote, to be between 60 and 80% of the website. For original data mentions, you want to count the number of assets that include first-party stats that you can stand behind, even if they're small. And lastly, you want to track for corroboration. For this, you'll track message delivery rate, earned quality score, and link back rate. For message delivery rate, track the number of earned coverage that includes your exact key message or messages. You should aim for at least 50%, but obviously the more is better. For the earned quality score, you can create a weighted number for the coverage. So this will depend on your industry, your products and services, your goals. It gets a 1, for instance, if it's in a blog or a newsletter, 2, if it's on a podcast or in a trade, and 3 in a top tier publication. That's, of course, not an exact formula. You can create your own. The point is to score it, stay consistent, and then watch the total trends that they increase over time. So if you start out with like 18 now, you want to get to 36 in a quarter. And then for the link back rate, you're looking for the number of placements or earned media coverage that link to your website. Ideally, they'll link to your pillar content or to a specific page, but you can count links to your homepage too. It's not as good, but it does work. Your goal here is to have at least 20% linking back. Now that you have metrics for that upper trust layer, you can focus on the bottom action layer. These will help you prove that the work you're doing around trust and reputation is paying off. You'll want to track qualified sessions to your website, to the anchor pages and the content hubs. Of course, if it's coming to the homepage, that's okay too. You want to track how many people are completing forms, how many people are actually showing up for the demos that they booked, and how much in revenue are you influencing? How much of that pipeline are you influencing? And you can also look to see if you've helped to shorten that sales cycle, because when the sales team calls or sends an email, the person on the other side recognizes the name and is willing to take the call or respond to the email. People actually showing up for the demo and the pipeline influence means you'll have to work closely with sales. So if they're not already, go make them your besties. From there, you'll create a scorecard that you update weekly. This will be what you share at a moment's notice. And it also will be what helps you tell the measurement story around brand trust, reputation, and thought leadership. The scorecard should include 5 numbers. Number 1, branded search. So Google Search Console and Google Trends, branded search. Number 2, the percentage of pages with AI and traditional search citations. The traditional search is easier because you have tools to do that. The AI search you're going to have to do manually on your own for now. Number 3, the number of messages delivered in your coverage. Number 4, the number of link backs to your website. And number 5, the cost to convert. That last one you're going to have to work with the sales team on. You want numbers 1 through 4. So branded search, percentage of pages with citations, number of messages delivered, and number of link backs to your site. You want those to move first. The cost to convert then should drop within 8 weeks. If it doesn't drop, you're paying a trust tax somewhere. The challenge will be in figuring out where that trust tax gap is. Go back to those metrics that we talked about at the start, where you're at your upper trust layer, and see where you have a gap. When you quantify reputation this way, you stop debating brand versus performance and start showing a relay. Trust hands the baton to action, and action can run faster to conversion. At the end of the day, not everything can be action-oriented, but everything can contribute to and influence the organization's goals. When your trust and reputation are high, everything else gets easier. Clicks get cheaper, forms don't feel risky, demos actually happen, and revenue shows up sooner. When you don't, you pay the trust tax, higher costs, longer sales cycle, and a lot of, why isn't this working? I know the money people want you to show them the money where brand is concerned, but I've hopefully given you enough content to be able to build the case for showing how and why it matters without that direct correlation to money, because it does matter very, very much. If you'd like to learn more about how to measure brand awareness, join us in the SpinSucks community. It's a great place to get advice, brainstorm ideas, and build real relationships with your peers. You can find us at spinsucks.com/community. That's spinsucks.com/community. And make sure you're following us on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. Our new social media manager is kicking butt and taking names, and she's posting all sorts of fun stuff. She's posting tips, how-tos, cheat sheets, and more every week. I actually show up sometimes in the comments there too, so surprise! I'll see you next week.